All right, folks, we made it up to chapter 11 of 30 in BlueCollar Leadership, and I've been waiting to get to this chapter. This is my favorite chapter. Not necessarily my favorite chapter. Let me take that back. It's my favorite leadership principle that I've ever learned. I learned it in the I first started learning about leadership because of a 1-hour audio. A friend of mine named Zach, in 2005, he loaded some music onto my iPod, and from his friend's computer at the time, put a lot of music on there. And when he gave it back, he said, "Hey man, I put a business book on there. I thought you might be interested in." I said, "Okay, what's the name of it?" He said, "The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People." And I've never heard of that. Like I said, at that time, I'd never read any leadership books. And I said, "Okay, I'll check it out." 3 years later, I had not checked it out. And I detail this a lot in my book, Defining Influence, a lot of my personal story, and I talk about what I'm sharing with you now. But 2008, I resigned from the corporate world and started my own lean manufacturing consulting business. I figured out if I could do that for somebody else, I could do it for me. And just to be transparent with you, my income went up 3 or 4 times when I started doing it for me instead of doing it for someone else. So that was a good move, even though everybody told me how stupid I was for resigning my corporate job, making more than I ever thought I'd make in my entire life. I mean, in my entire career, I never thought I'd make what I was making then. And I resigned in the middle of the Great Recession in 2008 to show everybody how smart I was. But it didn't take long, and I got going and moved on well beyond what I was earning before I quit in the corporate world. So 2008, I'm riding around to speak to clients, and I remember being bored with my music, and I'm surfing through my songs and my iPod, and I come across, and my iPod hooked to the stereo in my car, so it was telling me what the song was, and it was actually that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I was bored, so I'm driving along. I said, "Let me listen to this. See what is this?" And I didn't know it. I know it now, but it was a 1-hour audio version. The complete book is actually around 13 hours of audio, so I didn't know it. I didn't know there was a book. I thought that whatever I had, I thought that was it, a 1-hour overview. And it was written by Dr. Stephen Covey. And I've read hundreds of books now, but that book is still my #1 favorite book. I teach it, talk about it every day. Everything in it I can apply to everything. No matter what book it is, I can break it down into the 7 habits. And that book literally transformed me and my life, and to me it's just the most. Dr. Covey done an awesome job with that. But early on in his teaching, he says, and again, chapter 11 is titled "The Power of the Pause Button." So early in the teaching, in that 1-hour audio, Dr. Covey says, between stimulus and response, human beings have the freedom to choose their response. And I listened to that. And actually, I hit rewind probably 4 or 5 times. I really don't remember, but it was a lot. Because I was thinking, at that time, I would describe myself, when it comes to short temper, I would say I was an idiot. I was one of those people that the wind blew the wrong way, I'd get mad and crazy like you could not imagine. Nothing like that ever happens now. I don't even really get mad or angry. I get on my pause button, which is what this chapter is about. But he says, between stimulus and response, human beings have the freedom to choose their response. And it resonated with me, and I thought about it, and I was like, me and my family, what we would always say, and I've heard it a lot from other people, but I'm talking about me, we always said short temper runs in the family. And we would provide the evidence to support the belief. All you had to do is hang around us and you would see short temper runs in the family. But after listening to Dr. Covey that day, I figured out what runs in our family was irresponsibility. Because between stimulus and response, we have the ability to choose our response. That means, as Dr. Covey teaches, we are response-able. We're responsible. And I started becoming responsible. And my life changed. And now I'm helping to change other people's life. But that's the #1 thing when I'm on the stage that I teach to people. And what Dr. Covey says is between stimulus and response, we have the freedom to choose our response. And in another teaching, I believe it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Marriages, he talks about, or his brother talks about the pause button. So something happens, we could pause and choose our response. And see, it's easy to say, yeah, I can do that when you're not stressed out, and you're not angry, and you're not mad. But it don't matter if you're mad. You still can choose your response. And you can validate this because I promise you, you've been mad at some point in your life when you knew it was better to just don't say anything. It could be with your boss or spouse. It could have been a police officer. It could be whoever. We've all validated we have the freedom to choose our response. Unfortunately, most of us don't. We just respond. Instead of being proactive, which is responding based on values, we become reactive, which is responding based on feelings. So I touch on chapter 11. I talk about the pause button a little bit to kind of expose you to that. And Dr. Covey says that's the greatest thing that people always talked about that they learned from his book. And for me, it was the same thing, to realize that I could choose my response. You don't have to go to work. You choose to go to work. You don't have to live with the people you live with. You choose to live with those people. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't. But everything you do is a choice. Unless somebody's forcing you, and even then, you don't have to do it. You could have to deal with whatever it is. And what we say is, we choose our actions, but not our consequences. You don't have to go to work tomorrow, but you do have to deal with not being able to pay your bills if you don't have a financial fund set aside to do that. And all your previous choices caused that. So when you really start looking in the mirror, remember our chapter on focus on the mirror, if you really want to get to the root cause of all your problems, invest in that mirror. But remember, when things are going wrong, you do have the freedom to pause and choose your response. It's like a mind muscle. I didn't just instantly flip the switch and become calm Mack. It took me a lot of work and a lot of thinking, and I got it wrong a lot of times, and I would still get angry, but I started getting it right sometimes. So that's what you have to do. Don't plan on being perfect, but plan on being better. So I hope you enjoyed this short lesson, and see you next time.